Mart is a Texas football town.
I don't know how they grow such good football players, but all of these boys had won state championships together at Mart High School.
I watched Jacob and Sabion play against each other, and that game was the best because their bond was really close.
When I walked in, I already knew they were gone.
He was going to be the person in the family that made it to the NFL.
These two murders changed the lives of the people in the community forever.
People were saying, like, wait till the truth comes out. I questioned, like, was there any secret animosity?
It was a mistake. We were all family.
In the early morning hours of the 18th, I got the phone call that there had been a double homicide in Mart.
7825, code 6.
It was a shocker because I've been in the sheriff's office over 10 years, and this is the first murder that's happened in Mart, especially a double murder. It's kind of one of those once-in-a-generation crimes. So I show up to the crime scene. The house is located on the main thoroughfare through Mart. Sabion was one of the victims. He was found in the bed. He was shot 2 times, one in the right side of the face just below the eye and one in the right neck. The second victim was Jacob. This was Jacob's house. He was found on the floor, and he was shot 3 times in the back. So, because they're football players, they're like rock stars. Everybody knew who they were. It felt like half of Mart was there at the crime scene. Everybody's screaming. They wanted something to be done right now. And nothing can happen fast enough to catch the shooter.
The population of Mart is probably around 1,700. The community is very close. Everybody knows everybody. Most of them are probably even kin to each other.
Mart, Texas is a good little town to raise your kids. You don't have to worry about nothing too much. And if you do something wrong, your parents gonna know before you even get home, because somebody gonna tell them.
Mart is a Texas football town. You've seen movies where they show the town and everything's closed up. Friday night, everybody's at the football games, and that's Mart.
High school football, I think, is a great Texas phenomenon, but it's an especially big deal in Mart. I don't know how they grow such good football players, but they have a pretty good track record of doing so. They've had a lot of success in high school football. The Mart High School Panthers. That is, I think, the one thing that the residents of Mart really rally around, and it's a big, big deal in that community.
Being at a Mart game, it's like being at a party. You got the yelling and the screaming, and you got everybody running around, and it's fun. Jacob was a standout player. I can honestly say, some of the talent, I don't know where he got it from, because he was just everywhere. His senior year, he won Most Valuable Player.
So we have two small towns right beside each other. Mart is the Mart Panthers and Riesel is the Riesel Indians, who were kind of a rival for years. It was a big thing. Jacob played for the Mart Panthers and Sabion played for the Riesel Indians.
Walking out at Riesel with Sabion, it was pretty special because he was gonna do something wild. He was gonna return a kickoff and run down the sideline, and everybody was gonna go crazy. Or he would make a big play on defense. He played free safety, so he was all over the field, so he could make a play anywhere on the field and just totally light up the stadium.
I watched Jacob and Sabion played against each other, and that game was the best game ever because it was so close. They like to see who is better in what. They like to have competition. But their bond was really close. They were inseparable. Like everywhere they went, they were together. If they even go to the store, they gotta go together. You see one, you're gonna see the other one.
I call them twins from another mother, because they even look alike.
Jacob and Sabion knew each other as kids. They were always laughing. When they were together, they were always having a good time because they were jokesters. When they were killed, I think the whole city was taken by surprise because everybody knew Jacob and Sabion.
On April 17th, I had just got home. And I remember I went into my room and then I ended up going to sleep early. And then around like 1 something, I heard a thump and I didn't pay it no mind because normally it's the boys playing around. So I went back to sleep.
I thought they was in there wrestling because I heard the door slam. I got up and checked on them. I went through the living room, and when I walked in, I seen Jacob on the floor and Sabion sitting up in the bed. I already knew they were gone.
My mama ran into my room and yelled, "Call 911, call 911." And I was asking her for what? And she wouldn't tell me, so I followed her into the room before calling 911 to see what was going on. And then I see her sitting on the ground, holding my brother crying. And then I turned my head, I see Sabion on the bed just laying there. And then so I went outside, I called 911. The only thing I can remember saying was, "My brother's been shot, he's dead, please come help."
And the hardest part of all that happened is seeing my wife sitting on the floor holding Jacob. And I had to tell her to put her down because she contaminated the scene.
The best that we can piece together, given the physical evidence, is that Sabion was probably shot first, given the fact that he hadn't moved. His feet were still crossed under the covers, so he was in a relaxed position. And then they shot Jacob. Jacob was probably trying to escape. He probably had just enough time to get up and start moving toward the door.
There's nothing missing from the scene that anyone that lived in that house could tell. It wasn't ransacked like you would think in a burglary or a robbery. Sabion was shot right in the middle of his forehead. It was intentional. Same with Jacob. It looked like an execution. They were relaxed, so it indicates that they probably were not alarmed by the shooter. That, to me, shows that it was very personal.
I didn't know who did it. I just wanted to know, why would this happen? What was the reason? I just wanted to find out who and why would they do something like this.
Jacob and his friends, they were hanging out at my house earlier that night, just playing the football games and watching TV, but I don't know what happened after that.
We needed to know who was at the house earlier when they were shot. It was a shocker when we found out the truth of what happened.
I'm laying in bed, just watching YouTube, and I was just having fun by myself. And then I got a call, and it was like 2:16 in the morning. It was a friend telling me that Sabion and Jacob have been shot. And I was like, oh, okay, are they okay? And then he was like, no, Chantel, they're dead. And then I didn't cry. It was more of like a dry scream. Like, it was just like, I don't know how to describe it. And then he said, y'all need to come to the house now. I heard her running down the stairs. I mean, she was running hard, screaming and everything else. And that's why I was like, what is going on? And then she runs in my room and tells me Sabion's been shot. I said, well, maybe they're okay. Maybe they're okay. We got to get to them. You know, maybe they'll be okay. She said, no, they're dead. So we got dressed and got in the car and went to Mart. That was the longest drive down that road ever. And I just kept saying, we gotta pray, we gotta pray, we gotta pray. And she was screaming. And finally we made it to where Riesel meets Mart, and there was just red and blue lights everywhere. So that's really when it hit. When I saw the ambulances pull off empty, that's when I knew that that was it.
Everybody in the house was erratic. Jacob's mom was on the floor with him, crying. Dad was wanting something to be done, yelling and screaming at everybody. In a situation like this, events can't happen fast enough to catch the shooter. So we need to make sure we keep building a good case as we're processing everything.
The murder weapon was found at the scene. It was a 9mm Glock with an extended magazine.
We found 6 spent shell casings, and we were able to account for all the rounds that were fired from those shell casings. In interviewing the family that night, nobody heard any of the shots that were fired in the house. The dad said that Jacob and Sabion played video games through all hours of the night, full volume, and so they were so used to hearing gunshots that they slept through the noise.
In addition to the shell casings that were in the bedroom, there also were numerous bloody footprints of someone who was not wearing shoes going from the bodies through the kitchen area and straight into the bedroom of Anthony Medlock and his wife, who were asleep in their bed at the time. Anytime you have a murder, there's going to be rumors going around about who did it, why they did it. And this case was certainly no exception. There were rumors that it was drug-related, that it was gang-related. The investigators in this case did a good job of running all those facts down.
Jacob and Sabion definitely weren't in a gang. From my understanding, the rumor was whoever was involved in doing it was trying to get initiated into a gang, and in order to get into the gang, you had to kill 2 people.
We found out there was a whole group of boys that came over to the house earlier that night.
All of these boys had grown up together from early childhood. All of these boys were very close friends. They referred to each other as brothers, and they were very well known in Mart. Jacob Ybarra was the defensive MVP for the Mart football team. Sabion Kibitza had a full scholarship to play football. Zamar Curvin received a scholarship to play Division I football at the University of Houston. Shatter Woola Bailey received an opportunity to play college football, and they had formed bonds on the football field all throughout their lives. And so it was hard for anyone to imagine that one of them could harm, let alone kill, one or more of the others. But that's absolutely something that we had to look at in this case as we would in any murder case.
We found out that Zamar and some of the group decided to go to some field party, and they wanted Jacob to go, and Jacob said that he didn't want to go because he knew that those parties were not always safe, and he wanted to stay home. And so they leave, and they're FaceTiming each other, and you see Jacob there, you see Sabion there whenever they're FaceTiming their friends in Jacob's room. And you also see Shatter Woola Bailey. So we knew Woola stayed there too, and could have been there when the shots were fired.
Woola Bailey was 20 years old. Jacob and Woola had won state championships together at Mart High School, and so they were truly lifelong friends.
We try to explore the relationships as much as we can. I didn't know where Wooly was. We don't know for sure what happened when, so we need to get Wooly to the sheriff's office to interview him.
When I heard that they couldn't find Woola, I questioned, was there any, secret animosity? It was suspicious because nobody knows where he is. I wanted to know why he left after Sabion and Jacob had been killed.
The next few days were extremely overwhelming because you're trying to process it all, but you're also having to plan a funeral, which is a lot when you've never thought of a song to play for your kid's funeral. You've never thought of anything.
I decided to do a balloon release for them. So we went to the football field to honor them and their memories. Blue was Jacob's favorite color and red was Sabion's favorite color. So the balloons was blue and red.
That football field was filled. Everybody was there. I was fixing to graduate high school in about 2 weeks. And so I attached my graduation invitation to the balloon and I let it go so they could be invited to my graduation.
While we were trying to find Woola, we start canvassing the neighborhood. And we find a woman who had video cameras. She was about 3 houses down the other side of the street. In reviewing the video camera, we found about 116 You actually see somebody's car pass. It stops. And then somebody gets out. You hear them take off. And then you hear the commotion when the person who was dropped off at the house really starts banging on Jacob's door, demanding to be let in. The man sounded very agitated. Not long after, you hear the first of 6 gunshots fired in quick succession. It was a very good piece of evidence to find because now we actually have a timestamp of the shots being fired. As far as we know, Sabion and Jacob. And the third boy, Woola, are inside the house when the 6 shots were fired. And then later on that night, we found Woola. You have a seat in the right chair, and man, you sit in the blue chair. He was at his godmother's house, and we were bringing him to the sheriff's office here to interview him. And he said he wasn't there when all this happened.
At the house, we was all having a good time. Then 12:45, I left the house to go to the store.
He said he chose to walk to the other end of town to get some snacks. It was about a 15 or 20-minute walk. And then when he got close to the house, these murders occurred.
I was walking on the street. And that's when I heard like 3 gunshots. At that time, I wasn't sure what I was hearing, so I just kept walking.
In reviewing the video camera, we were able to confirm some of Woolu's testimony because the house looks down the nearest side street, and we see a cell phone on the video image coming up that side street, and it's positioned about where Woolu said he was when he heard the gunshots.
He's walking back up near Texas Avenue. You can hear when the gunshots hit that he stops, and then you see him continue on to the house.
He's near the house when those shots were fired, close enough to hear the shots. But he was not inside that house when that murder occurred.
But we have an eyewitness who knows what happened that night because Woola goes in the house.
I just walked in the house, and I turned, and then I looked in Sabion room. I seen Jacob laying on the floor, but I didn't know that he was already dead. So I just went inside Jacob's room by myself.
When he got back into the house, Woolu said somebody else was there too.
Zamar Curvin, who had left the house earlier in the evening, had got dropped back off at that house.
Woolu said it was very weird. Zamar was not acting like himself. He was acting kind of crazed.
He was behaving erratically and appeared to have blood on him.
Woola saw that. Zamar had bloody socks on and was walking bloody footprints throughout the house.
Woola was scared to death.
I ran to the kitchen at the side door. That's when I ran all the way down the street.
We don't know where Zamar went. We don't have any video of Zamar leaving the house, but we had the bloody footprints leading from Dad's room, through the kitchen, out the side door, and up the driveway. There was a team led by the chief of police in Mart that went to Zamar's dad's house because the chief felt that that's where Zamar went.
The Mark police chief, who had known Zamar Kirvan his entire life, also knew he was a star football player. And so warned the other officers and had them form a perimeter around the house because, to put it in his words, this man can run like a gazelle.
Come out of the house.
The chief of police was able to get Zamar to surrender peacefully. He was arrested for the murder of his friends, Sabion and Jacob.
I guess I was still sort of like in shock, like, why? Why would you kill somebody that you was raised around and close to? Z was part of the family, so we treat him the same as we treated all the rest of our kids, so it didn't feel right.
I did think it was a mistake when they said that Zamar did it. We were all family.
Zamar was in jail. And then there were people posting that Zamar was gonna get free. People were saying, like, wait till the truth comes out.
And here's a throw to the end zone. Zamar Kirvan with the catch. Touchdown, Mart High.
Zamar Kirvan was a favorite son of Mart. And so people were very surprised that he was present in the house at the time these murders occurred. There was very high hopes in that community that he would go on to a successful collegiate football career and then hopefully to a professional football career. And so he was exceptionally athletically gifted.
We call him Z, baby. Z was part of the family. I consider Z as a son. Zamar was good. He was strong, he was powerful. If you got in the way, he pretty much gonna run you over.
He looked like a linebacker. If you were to build one, that's the guy. That's what it was gonna look like.
Zamar had been on the football team at the University of Houston. He was a great athlete, one of the best ones that Mart High had ever seen.
Zamar was going to go to the NFL, and that was going to change the fortunes of the Kirvan family.
And then looks like Zamar, maybe he killed them both. That's just unbelievable.
At the time, Zamar Kirvan was living with Mr. Medlock, but that doesn't explain away why he had the blood on his running pants and on his shirt.
When I arrived at the Mart police station, Zamar was cuffed and his socks were saturated with blood. And there was a little bit of blood spatter on his pants.
Just have a seat right here.
And then we interviewed Zamar.
You do know why you're here, right?
No, that's why I'm telling you, like, I just remember, like, going to my dad's and I thought I was gonna die.
He talks about events kind of leading up where they were and all, but he stopped short of the episode where the gun was fired, where anybody was killed, anything like that. The chief in Mart knew Zamar. He said that he was not acting like himself. He was kind of disconnected, like he could have been scared because he was covering for somebody.
I don't know. I don't want to continue with the questions. I'd rather just have my lawyer here.
Have a lawyer?
Yeah, just because I've never done this before. I'd rather just have somebody that does know.
So we don't know for sure what happened, and the only person who would know isn't talking.
Zamar Curvin looked like he was guilty of these murders. But when we were working on this case, we received a phone call that took what otherwise would have been a very simple murder case and turned it into something that could turn into a fight about who did it in a courtroom.
Kevin Curvin, who is actually a cousin of Zamar, was at our jail because he'd gotten a shootout with Waco PD. Kevin has a long history of criminal offenses. During the course of Waco PD's interview, they talk about the murder of Sabion and Jacob. And he admitted to being in Mart that night.
He said he also engaged in a violent confrontation inside that house.
Kevin Curvin is a gang member and also grew up in Mart, Texas. You have to take that seriously. You also have to take seriously that he is a bad guy.
I went to the jail with another detective where Kevin was being held to interview Kevin. You have the right to remain silent and not make any statement at all. Any statement you make may be used against you in your trial. Just right there for me. All right. We're going to talk about the Mart murders, Sabion and Jacob. This is the one we're concerned about. We're here to hear your side of the story. So why don't you tell us kind of what happened?
Kevin Curvin said one of the two victims, Sabion, had made some type of sexual advance towards Zamar, and Zamar Curvin was upset by that, and Kevin Curvin claimed that Zamar told Kevin that he wanted to kill Sabion.
And I was like, nah, I got it. I wasn't gonna let him put himself in that predicament, none of that.
Kevin said, no, you don't need to get yourself in trouble. I'll take care of it.
And I don't know what to do, but I do know that I gotta do something before he do.
Kevin said that he then went over to the house, went into that bedroom, and he shot those two boys in the head and left.
We do know Kevin was present at the night of the murder.
There's a motel directly across Texas Avenue from Anthony Medlock's house. Kevin Curvin was seen by the Mart police chief, who saw him at that motel the morning following the murders of Jacob and Sabion. So Kevin Curvin was definitely in the area at the time these murders occurred. Zamar Curvin would not provide any substantive information about Kevin Curvin's confession. But he did have the opportunity to send text messages through tablets that inmates have access to. And so we had those texts, and then we knew exactly what had happened inside that house.
During the investigation, going forward, it's Zamar Curvin that's done it. That's where all the evidence is leading. And then here comes Kevin Curvin, his cousin, saying, I'm the one that did it. I shot Sabion and I shot Jacob. So then we had to go and uncover those rocks.
I don't even know why I did it, you know what I mean? They were just sitting on the side of the bed. So as soon as I get there, there's nobody there. Nobody but them. It's Jacob and Sabion. Jacob is playing the game. Sabion is up against the wall on this phone.
So it's just you, Jacob, and Sabion?
Yes.
In the whole house, correct?
Yes.
He claimed that no one else was in the house, but we knew there were at least 4 other people in the house at the time of the murder.
I didn't say nothing. I just a shoot come straight through the door, boom.
Just one shot each?
Yeah, I didn't shoot no more than that.
Yeah.
The boys were both shot multiple times, so saying that he only shot one shot on each of them, we knew immediately was not true.
Kevin is a bit of a gun aficionado, and we asked him during the interview the brand of gun that he used, and we gave him a couple options, Beretta, Ruger, and Taurus. Well, Kevin said that he was using a Taurus. Well, it wasn't a Taurus, it was a Glock that was used. We have the murder weapon, so we know exactly what gun. All the bullets that were fired that night, the shell casings and everything, match up to that Glock. It couldn't have been any other gun. Kevin's DNA is not on that Glock.
All of his details, in terms of specifics, just did not match up with what the physical evidence showed at the scene.
All the evidence was pointing at Zamar Curvin. He was there that night. We had the bloody footprints. We had him running from the scene. We had everything going.
We believe Kevin was trying to take credit for Zamar to get Zamar out of jail. Zamar, I think, was kind of the person who was meant to be the success story of the family.
Kevin really thought Zamar could get back into college football and maybe make it to the NFL. He was going to be the person in the family that made it and took care of everybody. And he said he did not want Zamar to end up like him. Even though people that are in jail know that every text they send or every phone call they make is probably going to be looked at by the district attorney's office or law enforcement, sometimes they get lax, and Zamar was saying that had he not been high that night, this wouldn't have happened.
In texting with his friends, he admitted that he did shoot Sabion and Jacob.
Looking back on that night, people blame it on the drugs, but I wouldn't necessarily blame it on the drugs. Everybody was so proud of him because he worked so hard for that scholarship just for it to go to waste. And then right before everything happened, Jacob and Sabion did get accepted to college, and Zamar felt like he was getting left behind. I felt like there was some type of jealousy in their relationship with all of them.
He'd gotten out of Mart. He was one of the best athletes they'd ever had. Zamar Curvin was on the football team at the University of Houston, and he had his whole future ahead of him. When he was arrested in another county for having a large amount of marijuana, and he was finally let go from the University of Houston football program.
After he got kicked off the team at Houston, he wanted to be this thug, but that's not the direction Sabion and Jacob were going. They were going to school, they were going to get a job. They were tied together with that, so I think that's where the jealousy comes in with Zamar.
And so in Texas, there is capital murder and regular murder. Capital murder carries a sentence of life without the possibility of parole. I offered Zamar Curvin a plea bargain offer, but with a sentence of life on regular murder, Zamar Curvin would have been eligible for parole after 30 years. Zamar Curvin did not take that offer. He rejected it and elected to proceed to trial on his capital murder charge.
The jury looked at all the evidence, and they saw that the only conclusion that could be made is that Zamar Curvin murdered two of his best friends, and so they found him guilty.
People think that you're gonna be happy and excited that they found him guilty, but it's not excitement. It's not something we went out and celebrated. I mean, he lost his whole life too. There's nothing good about it.
With Z being in jail, did nobody win? I forgave Z the same day. I'll never forget what he did, but I had to forgive him for me.
At my graduation, I had a chair for them, and there was a picture of us, me, Sabion, and Jacob from my prom So, and then I took a picture with it afterwards. It was good, because it was like they were there since they couldn't physically be there. That night just changed everyone's lives. I mean, all of the boys had bright futures ahead of them. And that night, that one incident just took everything from all of the boys and families and friends. It affected more people than you could ever imagine. I believe the community has come out of the grief. I feel like it showed everybody that you never know when somebody's gonna go. I see a lot of people hanging out, and a lot more pictures have been taken. Like, you see a lot of people soaking and enjoying the moment. I feel like I've noticed a lot of more quality time being spent with people.
Touchdown, Lakey Patriots! Friday Night Lights brings you forward as a celebrity, but it also could put a target on your back.
Did Coach Moss cross paths with someone at a football game, and they followed him home.
SWAT team just came. They're looking for a gun.
This is Texas. This is football, and people are crazy.